The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should say in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation, there is no impurity and no purity, there is no decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no eye dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, no fear, they transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way. Te ata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Chandra Samaraya Me Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhiso Baba Gonjo Zonji Gaye Neme Doji She Obodoji Me Bodoji She Wadoji Ragi Baji Me Dube Judanji She Dingo Yezo Eri Nonya Jijo She Wada Me Do Nube Jendan Je Wada Dong Ba Jun Jin Bun Sun Sun Jio Ji Da Shi De Jan Ne Na De Le Yo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain with teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Gam Niradayami. Jadan Jadi Janam La Janjo Badu Dani Jazuji. Nagi Chunye Jipezo Nani Enrola Benji Zanyi Rubayo. Nan Zedi Janam La Janjo Badu Dani Jazuji. Nagi Chunye Jipezo Nani Enrola Benji Zanyi Rubayo. Jadan Zodi Janam La Janju Madu Dani Jazuji. Ndagi Jinye Jibezu Nam Jinjo La Benji Zanyi Rubayo.
Lari Sachi or Denma, large Zawashin, the Visu, 10 Lucitation, then the Lucitation is about the La, the Utala Hibbel and Vishuko, Hibbel and Sungo, the La, the day Chibichungo, the Tongu largest evolution, but you can read down Tongu largest evolution, but you Chibi largest evolution, but you soon lay, Tambo Chibichungo, the Tongu largest evolution, but you tell us soon somebody the somebody Chibi say, tell a Ludu Seva. Sambajama Mudala, Jiden Shama to Luciba, Jiden Shama di Tau Demba, Jiden Shama di Tau Demba, the Chandu the Renile, Chandro. Chandu the La, Chandu the Shivalata Saji Shimarva, Chausun Jo, Chausun Tu, Chausun Laja. Jigan Laja Kaplet Marva, Laja Che, Laja de La, and Dual Shivil Laja, Mengal Shivil Marva. 다 맹한 집을 하셨지. 맹한 집을 하셔도 라 수술 하셔. 안에 수술 하셔다 통문 하셔. 니게 나네 통문 하셔 가둘래들 봐.
So once again, we are looking at studying Lama Tsong-kha-pa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. And if we look at it according to the outline, we begin with how to rely upon the teacher that is the root of the path. And then the second point of how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher. And then under that sections of how students train their mind, after having relied upon the teacher, we have 2 points: an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and then how to take advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. So under the section of how to take advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, we begin with 3 major headings: training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity, training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and then training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. So under that first heading of training the mind and the stage of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity, we have 3 categories under that first heading. First, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity. Second, the measure of the attitude of the person of small capacity, or the measure of the attitude of that thought. Third, dispelling any misconceptions that are related to a person of small capacity. So these are the 3 points that are made under that major heading: training the mind, the stages of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity. And if we go to that first category, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, there are 2 sections of that outline: developing a state of mind that strives diligently for the sake of future lives, and then a second point of relying on a method or a means of achieving happiness in one's next life. So the section of relying on a method or a means of achieving happiness in one's next life then has 2 major headings under it. First, refuge, and then karma and its results. And in the refuge section, we have 4 divisions. First, the causes for refuge. Second, based on that, the objects to which you go for refuge. 2, third, how to go for refuge. And then fourth, the advices related to refuge, or the precepts related to refuge. And then, so we're in the section related, in the precept section, or the advices related to refuge section. And then there are 2 ways that this section is explained. So first, it's explained according to a Sangha's compendium of determinations, and then the second way that it's explained is according to the oral tradition. And then in the oral tradition there are specific precepts, or those that are not in common, and then there are those precepts that are in common, or advices that are in common. So we're under the section of the precepts or advices that are in common, or the general precept section. So.
와지 다트무글라자 도와당아서 사지둘 로신 사지둘로 야분 사지대 야분에 되나 안는 라린 어때 사지대 되다 시고로 다트무글라자라 둘레 군주수지 차바당 연대 제수 템베 이하네 야도 저수도 와서 사지 당버지 더 진사로 니바 가린 제수 템베 뒤다도 쳐발라 준신 자와던 자유 표정 빌라스 what this sajiniba the marba sajiniba de la and then nalu de la chabar shawat shebi sambani diswa shebi sambani tenma tuji chabala suban jaji saji chutubu dine jusum marba jusum junju de chabar shawat and shebi samba da phen sun marba shebi samba ten tuji chaba what tuji chabala suban jaji saji judine jusum thazon chinsarwa da taringa so de somba hiji jesu tembe roajen ya chundalam go bas what man china marwa somba hiji jesu tembe roajen ya chundalam go bas what somba je shawa kan she badan goba jiyo na ganju song la chue ne soa de jin jiden be ta jin bon as wa je da pen shi be go ne yin la su chen la su de jiao su de wa je de ne ganju song la ta ne yin ge ji she yang su yin ge ji she ran su ge she yang ma da jin song wa xiao so de mar ba what is haji what about the imbaturo ta niba hiji jesu tembe roajen ya telag go bataring asu woten dona lari chime jende do we jena jata ngaju ngani ndu jata ngaju ngani
Sumba
inche sumba dro
okay
ane inchi kabandu ngaju ngani tatabu hiji jesu tembe doa yen ya chudlamu watindro mara.
Okay, so let me first tell everybody where we're going. We're going to page 202 in the English. That's where we're going to end up after these points that are going to be made. So 202 in the English, and let me just establish where I am in the Tibetan. We're on a roll here. Okay. So when we look at this section on the general precepts, or the precepts that are in common, it's good if we first go over the general outline with the 6 points, and then we can go over them one by one as we've been doing so far. So when we begin, so the general precepts, the 6 general precepts are as follows. First, by recalling the distinctions and good qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge again and again. So we already went over that section. By recalling the great kindness of the 3 jewels, strive to worship them constantly and offer the first portion of your food and drink. And under that second section, we find the actions of offering and the attitudes, and then under the actions of offering, the 10 points that are made. And then when we looked at Jayan Sheba's commentary, we found a total of 13 that we can divide the section into. So we begin with a continuous, this continuous offering, this constant offering or continuous offering. That is the first category. The second category, the actions of offering. The second category, the intentions of offering. The third category, the time of offering, and so forth. So it comes out to a total of 13 points that Jayan Sheba makes within the context of that section under number 2. So the next section, number 3, establish other living beings in this practice by considering them with compassion. That's where we're going to begin. The 4th, whatever activity you engage in and whatever your purpose, make offerings and supplications to the 3 jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods. Number 5, after you have understood the benefits, go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. And number 6, maintain your refuge and do not forsake the 3 jewels, even in jest or if it costs you your life. So those are the 6 points in the outline and a general explanation of number 2. And number 1 we already went over, so we're going to begin with number 3.
Niji Jesu Tabi Ndua Yen Yang Chundala Gobas, Niji Jesu Tabi Ndua Yen Da Tsuya, and the Chandula Gores, what is a woman there? That Niji Jesu Tabi, that Niji second Tag Karasukarita, Dunga the Tendu Kisawajila, and the Niji Lagmarbe, Dunga the Tendu, and Dunga Ju, Dunga Chaban Duji, Dunga, the Khan Wal Tenduki, and the Sanjung. What the Niji Loding Marba Niji?
Ninji Senjung.
Niji Pechi Senjung is Nava Masava.
Okay.
Because Shedam Meja Niji Yans, Shedam Meja, Shedam Mebigaza Niji the Shedam Mebigaza in Sonsaji, Nande Marba Nande. Shedam Meja Niji Yan, Nande Litten, Shedam Mebigaza de, and then Niji Jagures, Sonsaji Dua. 다 니질은 치와다 총 몸도 아 맞아 추추들 그제 시바 있나 니지 세메다 니지 쳔보스 니지 세메 테멜 요아레 니지 쳔보데 티진을 마도 테멜 요 마레스 티진 서고르베다
세메 테메유
니지 세메다
쳔보메
포메주데 테멜 요드로다 세메제 테멜 요드레 니지 쳔보 temelio marwada tanga tu chudul keja sheba ina wada niji wada ne jachibuda momushiya duwa an chudul keja ma sheba ina niji ku ane bana shiu na tu sule niji duwa na shiu tu zige tene bugu chuchung tu chingu ne ku bugu chuchung tu tsawa duwa tsawa marba ane shamba tang niji duwa na bugu tu chingu ku kala yusa tila shaa ne bugu tu saa lau duwa
ka
그런 보고 줘라 보고들 샤바도 예지도 아 고등에 다잖아 비 상바다 들집이 좋나냐 비 상바데 쇼도들도
Okay. So We begin. Establish other living beings in this practice by considering them with compassion. So when we look at this word compassion, there are so many ways that we can divide it. We can look at it in terms of religion or dharma, and we can look at it in terms of just the word as it relates in non-dharma usage, or the non-dharma usage, or the non-religious usage. So if we look at it with the related to dharma or religion, we have many different terms. We have immeasurable compassion. We have great compassion. And immeasurable compassion is the kind of compassion that we find presented in the four immeasurables. And compassion, in general, is a desire to see beings free from suffering or separated from the suffering that they are experiencing. So separating beings from suffering is what the wish to separate beings from suffering is what compassion is. So a Hinayyanist and Mahayanist both share this immeasurable compassion. So the compassion that we find in the four immeasurables is shared both by Hinayana and Mahayana. But the great compassion is exclusive to only the Mahayana. So when we look at these terms, immeasurable compassion we find in the Hinayana vehicle, whereas great compassion is only found in the Mahayana vehicle. And compassion itself is a mental factor. And we find in the Dharmakirti's commentary on the Compendium of Valid Cognition, the Pramanavartika Karika, it states that it is that which is the root virtue, which is the absence of hatred. So the root virtue, which is the absence of hatred. So that's in the root virtue that is the absence of hatred is compassion. So this is how Dharmakirti posits this, posits compassion, and then posits it as a mental factor. So we find this in the Pramanavartika Karika. If we look at it in terms of non-religion, a bird, for instance, can have compassion for its young. So it wishes to feed it. Why is it wishing to take care of it? Why is it wishing to feed it? To relieve its suffering, to take it to a place where it feels good or feels pleasant, to take away, remove suffering from it, so the bird feeds it and takes care of it. So this is a form of compassion as well. And this would be a form of compassion that would be not in the terms of Dharma that we're speaking of, specific kinds of compassion in Dharma.
And the color is at the Shagana, and the color the length and country. And Amandu did not put the Crusade.
Guy.
Which is show to with the sea, was at the Shagadu. And Amag was the sea in Bugultero. And the Bugultena, Amandu, then cook a lake Crusade.
Oh, less so. So initially the bird's mother brings it food and puts it in the nest, and then picks it up with its beak and puts it in the young's mouth, and then will leave food there, so the young will eventually learn how to feed itself. So the young bird, after a while, will see food in its cage and won't expect it from its mother and be able to take it itself.
So the
human children, the children of humans, and the children of animals are looked at similarly by their mother with love and compassion. So we see in the case of the bird, where the bird wishes to free its young from a state of suffering, it wishes to bring it to a place where it feels good, or a pleasant place. And here we can say that the bird is having love and compassion for its young.
And then
when I forgot to mention the three sufferings before, but they're about to be repeated, so it's going to be the same content, so I apologize. So when we look at great compassion, and we look at other ways we can divide it. We can look at the different types of suffering, the suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and the pervasive compounded suffering. And here we could have the compassion which wishes one to be separated from the suffering of suffering, the compassion that wishes one to be separated from the suffering of change, the compassion which wishes one to be separated from the pervasive compounded suffering. So there are many different forms of compassion.
다 니지 쯤에도 쯤에 도 그거 로사데 중고지 두고 송요래 쯤에 니지 쯤에 샤바 쯤에 가와 쯤에 다누 쯤에 오도라 네 사데 중고지를 때네 사데 중고지를 때 봐지 고그레스 사데 중고지 마투 비줄래 니지 쯤에도 샤바 쯤에 다 가와 쯤에 주에서 말해 사데 중고지서 말해 띵해주고 어떤 것이 지도하고 또 토소나드네 이지 세메도 용고면로 이 세메 아니 어디 세메지 두고 사대 중고지 두고 송으로 어디가도 파신 세메지 가도 뛰어도 없는 요래.
So if we look at the four immeasurables, and we look at the explanation according to the Prajnaparamita text, we find that the four immeasurables are, first of all, love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And this state of immeasurable, any among those four, is brought about by a concentration that is then transformed into a state of clairvoyance. So it's a concentration, so a single-pointed concentration that then brings about a clairvoyance. So this is necessary to be present in order for this immeasurable form of these love, compassion, joy, and equanimity to take place. So a concentration level, clairvoyance comes out of concentration, basically. It's another way I could say it. Clairvoyance comes from a single-pointed concentration, and then that's the qualification necessary for there to be immeasurable any among those four.
다 니지 전부 생에 도와지 매번 생에 다질라면 등한테 전화냐 비상으로 어디 등해지 등한테 차반두지 등한테 어디 전화냐 비상으로 가면 와 등한테 전화냐 비 매번 생에 다질라면네 어느 시간 다지 등한테 전화냐 비 세이 나버지 좋아 어디 니지 전부 생이 있어 어디 생에 다질라면네 등한테 전화냐 비 좋아더니 지라 니지 전부로 그러지 말봐 희체미세니 미바 생제 다지라 다 마시 텐텐 제주 용그 샴바 희지 말바 마시 텐텐 제주 용그 샴바 희지 첨부들 생이 좋으스나 미바 생제 다지라 미네 나바 동에다 텐듯이 세이 나바지 써와서 다 써와
Yeah, the senche parshin shitan, you're right. Semeji.
What about you?
You're right. Anji Kezu-san. So let me just, before I find this, I don't want to lose where I was at. So great compassion is when we look at may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. If I misquoted before, I apologize. So if we look at the second line of the four immeasurables, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. This idea that this mind or idea that has as its object of observation all sentient beings and the wish to free them all from the suffering of change, the suffering of suffering, the pervasive compounded suffering, is great compassion. So when we look at it in terms of the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, we have first recognizing sentient beings as our mother, second remembering their kindness, third wishing to repay their kindness, fourth love through the force of attraction, and then great compassion. So that last step just mentioned, great compassion, is what we're referring to, and it comes about through these other qualities. So Rinpoche gave the definition of the Ninji Chenmo Itseni Gare
이 집에서 매번 생전 다질라 미네 등에 전도지 수위 나버지 있어 이 집에서 이 말봐 자도 이제 공부 잘봐 매번 생전 다질라 미네 다 무엇은 이유 매번 생전 다질라 미네 나버 등에 전도지 수위 나버지 있어 다 가다 매번 생전 다질라 미네 등에 전나냐 저와든 질라 진심으로 그래서 말봐.
Oh, okay. Here, here we go. So compassion is a wisdom or meditative stabilization that thinks that wishes that all sentient beings be free from suffering. So Rinpoche. Oh, it's not in Tibetan. Yeah, Diksung. So it's a mind that wishes that has as its object of observation all sentient beings and wishes that they all be free from suffering. So this is the definition of great compassion. Diksung.
What the Ni Shimbatla Song you are as Marba, Senjala maybe Nijimbo, Chula maybe Nijimbo, Mimela maybe Nijim, Mime say the Chenrezig what Marba, Mimela maybe Nijim, that Mataba to be Sherata. Don't need to be Shelaji Mazimbi, True Majibi, and the same Tajila Mine, don't have the Jana Nabson, Hiji or what, Sijin Sola maybe, Hiji Chembores. That Mataba to be Shela True Shebi, Sijin Taji don't have the Jana Nabi, Hiji de, Chula maybe Nigeres. Don't need to be Shelaji True Shebi, Sijin Tajila Mine, don't have the Jana Nabi, Salute, Mimela maybe Nije. Then
Tambo Yandru Sunalang Sentient.
Maybe Sentient Tajila maybe the Sawaje.
Okay.
What the true shake and Hiji Chembo don't need to be shared out Namataba to be shared with True Majeba Ina. Sentient Zala maybe
okay.
Sentient maybe he's Zamatu, Mataba True Shake Mataba to be shared out True Shake Mare, don't need to be shared out True Shake Marwa.
Less out.
That Mataba to be shared out True Shake, don't need to be shared with True Majibi Gaji, Hijabjuro, the Chula maybe Hijab.
Less out. Mitapa.
Don't need to be shared out True Shake, Hijab, Mimela Hijab.
Less
out.
So when we divide great compassion, we can divide it into three categories. Compassion, observation, compassion which has as its object sentient beings, compassion of phenomena, and observationless compassion. So the first is just a wish that sentient beings be separated from suffering. So it's this wish that has as its object of observation sentient beings, and the wish is that they be free from suffering. So this is the first level of compassion. The second level of compassion is recognizing and establishing the impermanence of the sentient beings and wishing that they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And then observationless compassion is coupled with the wisdom realizing the emptiness of the sentient beings that one wishes be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So these are the three types of compassion. The compassion observing sentient beings, compassion observing phenomenon, and compassion observing the observationless.
What that needs Chenmo, what needs Chenmo, what the Jagato Marva. That needs just to time base, that was in the Dunga, the Jew, Dunga, Chaban Duji, Dunga, Nakan Kaza, and Yubaina, and tell Hijene. And Chunu Jena Abuare, Jonu Jegina, and Dendu Yungre, Dendu La Yungre, Dendu Yungre, Tabi La Yungre, Taba Yungre, Tiba Chembi La Yungre, and Saji Yungres, what the Jonu Jena Abuores, what to stand by Ina, and Kokabajin, Jonu Lungun.
So then if we think of the different types of suffering, and if we look at the considering them with compassion, sentient beings with compassion, then we begin to think about suffering. And then when we think about suffering, we think about the suffering, the suffering of change, and pervasive compounded suffering. So then, as a result, we go for refuge. So by going going for refuge, it allows us to establish ourselves within the various other pathways which will lead us out of the various types of suffering. So it allows us to, by going for refuge, it allows us then to engage in the pathways which lead to the higher realms, and then achieve, as a result, the higher realm rebirth. It allows us to engage in the pathways for liberation, which then allow us to achieve liberation. And then it allows us to engage in the pathways of the Mahayana, or great vehicle, and that allow us to become Buddhas. So we find that when we reverse it and we establish these sufferings, then we establish them for ourselves, and then go for refuge. And then this allows us to go forward from there anywhere we wish. Path, relative to the path.
가서 담았다고 친구와 담아서 대 건축선을 최범부 건축선을 자선적이나 신기 돌아다니 봤어. 어때 어느 소수의 주제 집에 중국이랑 딩이랑 든들이랑 타비랑 상주공도 라도야 제용으로서 대상도 두서들에 어느 존나 세면서 상나 되먹고 네 고나 줄면 집에 두서레스 데리고 두서래 신기 돌아다니 봐도 맹아레스 가동 친구와 고바도 말배 자주에 사지 고바도 다시가 좋아다고 가도도 말배
Less
어디 신기 돌아다니 봐 어느 수술 네바시다 매바 이나야 어느 고조선라 저선 좋아다 건조선을 처분해봐 이나 어느 건조선 그 신기 돌아다니네 어느 수술줄에 된줄라다 타비라다 두서가 지와지로 어디 자말배
Papa.
다 니지 제수 때문에 로아진야 춘들랑 거반네서 세제제야 진유지 조선 로알라 세윤거 보고 세제제야 네 간유 진유 편시네 저도 지금이나 편야부 요아래 레베야부 용거스 어떤데 제유군들라도 어떤 세제제라 제라야 저도 편 뭐시베이나 아니 저도 전도는 것도 그래요. 그 전도 얘기하는 거보다 어디서 말이야?
So, all right. So if establish other living beings in this practice by considering them with compassion. This means that you use all available means to caringly establish other living beings in the practice of going for refuge. So you then, after you learn of going for refuge, and then the offerings to the jewels and so forth, then you establish others by letting them know the benefits that you know of about going for refuge. So you can say, it's beneficial if you go for refuge, so you should do this, etc. So this is what, according to the personal instructions, what are stated, that we establish others by stating the benefits that we find for going for refuge in the sections that we previously went over, and then encouraging others to go for refuge in the same way because of what we already know. So encouraging them, and I think that's it. I might have missed this. If I omitted something, I apologize.
다 니지 제수 때문에 로아진야 춘들랑 거봐서 대지만도 도와 어디 사지 송바 찾는 것도와 사지 송바로와.
So this third section doesn't have very much information in it. So we're going to move on from there because there's not very much information to go over.
다 사지 송바듯이 다 사지 송바때 말이야. 샤와 강셰바당 고바지여나 건조송라 최네 소환 대신 지대비 터진 봉와서 어때 사지 제바도 말이야. 사지 제바도 제가도와 되네 샤와 강셰바도 고바지여바나 대주 치다다던도 토노토노 만도와 샤와 강셰바도 고바간데 지여바 있나 여바나 안에 건축 송라 최네 소환 대신 지대비 터진 봉와네 샤와 전다시 셰바당 고바 전다와시 통양 건축 송라 댐바당 대당 제수 튠비 건축 처바 소라 샤이스 샤이 대다다 마준비 변라 소발라 나바 탕제도 땡도 모롱웨 뒤 탕제도 건주라 르기베샤오스 what 사지 지바테렘데
Whatever activity you engage, so we've gone over number 3. Number 4, whatever activity you engage in and whatever your purpose, make offerings and supplications to the 3 jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods. The point here is and then it goes on to say, whatever activity you engage in and whatever your purpose, rely on and do that which accords with the 3 jewels, such as making offerings to them. But never do that which does not accord with the 3 jewels, such as relying on the Bon tradition. Always entrust yourself to the 3 jewels.
What does it do that? And Shah Kansheba, Gubachi Yabana, and then Suzuki Shah Karshigina, Gubakana Yabaina, and the conjunction of Chibam Vichos, and the Legat Shah Drugina, and the Shirayabu, and the conjunction Machi, conjunction Imachibachi. And then Pangitten, Pangchum, that and Losa, you are, Lasua, you are, Pearl and Hama, and also Tom to Pang shoot tires, Pangchu. Pang shoot la, and Pangat and Pena Nishigua, Pangat and Pena, da Navasanjiba memory, that Pamanapute.
Napo, okay.
Pena secondua. That Pangat in song, Nasu Lobata, Pambo Uritin. Kunghama Pambo Chowdhuta, Tanda Pambo to Yure, Pambo to Sonji Killer, Soji Chue Jigger, Penchu, Kuskaka, Pambo Chuga Mota.
Then Pemba Napo, Bemba Gewa?
Pamba Nabutan Paganis,
Garbo, okay.
Pamba Gabu, that number
okay, these.
Number Kupambi Jigger, Sanji Chue Killer.
Less so.
Okay.
So whatever activity you engage in and for whatever your purpose, so whatever you're doing and for whatever reason you're doing it, make offerings and supplications to the 3 jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods or worldly religions. So here it says, such as relying on the Bon tradition. So the Bon tradition we find a large amount of in Tibet, and they have their own gods and so forth and their own different divisions. And there are 2 different divisions of the Bon tradition. There is the Black Bon tradition and the White Bon tradition. The Black Bon tradition is a tradition that is said to be not in line with Buddhism and would be falling under this category. The White Bon tradition we find even still today quite prevalent, even where Rinpoche said where he's from in Kham. We find the White Bon tradition, and they assert their tradition as well as the Buddhist tradition. So they state that they hold the views of the Buddhist tradition and assert these views as well as their own traditional views. There are 2, Rinpoche is just making as an aside, there's 2 separate types of Bon traditions, and Bon is still present in Tibet. So okay. So we find a lot of Bon practitioners in Tibet, and we see that they're making various offerings with the powdered offerings and so forth. So we find them very present. Their presence, them very present in Tibet. These practitioners.
And she be combat on the Jure, then sounds on glue sure, sounds on bamboo sure, sounds on Yamaka sure.
Kanga.
Revenge to it.
Less so.
Bamboo to do Yamata glue and Romare. Yama to do Jena Romare, glue to the
so in where I'm from, there are 3 separate monasteries, and then there's a common monastery. There's the Nyingma Monastery, the Bon Monastery, and the Gelugpa Monastery. And then there's a place where sometimes there's each of the traditions will come to do larger events.
So
the Bon practitioners study debate or philosophy and are great scholars. Study the dialectics and are great scholars. And then they get together and do a dance ceremonies sometimes.
What is it? Bamboo tap and get the Pionki treat and the Jeva in a treat the Johnson Rune, Majin Robici Ruches, and the sound of Tanshan and Jigondo. You like that super double marva. Conjuli Machine, Conjusula Yimachine, Pembi treat to the low Luke in Jena, and Digamares. Conjuli Yubayina. And the Pemble had to throw to Robici Ruches in the Digoda. Damal Chinswan. Yang no Jangi Marva. Kaji Guinesola Chodroa, Jitin Hanjendala, Joseph Swan Minus, the Katude, Jitin Hatrabutan, or the Sul Johnson to Jumaris. Never get no Kusul, Television Jigger Sonswan.
Less so.
The Leshitable, the new Tilla Shoda, Switch Saging and Lemon Double, Tagitula Sumazu Moshi, maybe.
Less so. So here, when we look at this Bon religion, we have the white and the dark Bon, and here it says that we shouldn't, if we have faith in the three jewels, we shouldn't go for refuge to the Bon religion or the Bon gods, but we can, as before it was stated, ask for help, for instance, or ask for assistance and then make an offering. So we can't go for refuge to them, but we can make an offering and so forth. So we previously went over this quite a few times and went over the points that are made within it, where we can actually ask for help but not go for refuge to these local deities and so forth. Got it. Oh, so here the Bon tradition is stopped or negated a little bit in this text.
Nema Kaju Saja Gulu to go to Gaba Jago, the Digamus, Shigo.
So there's a talk or Zun.
Meeting.
Oh, so a meeting, Zundu. Okay, so there's been meetings about how this isn't good, because the Tibetan tradition will sometimes, they'll say there's Nyingma, Kaju, Galu, Sakya, and Bon. So there's been meetings that say that this sort of rhetoric is not good because there are 5 traditions in Tibet. So there is that idea as well. So there's ongoing talks and meetings that take place about this topic. The Nyingma Kaju.
And Shah and the Katu Saji Shibat Marva. Gobachi, Shah Kanshibat, Gobachi, Conjuson la Chune, So and Dejin, Tabane, and then Tajin Pontis. Prambuki Chut Shiju Marisado. What a god Marva. One, Shawa Jendashi Shibata, Gobachi, Tona, Conjuson la Tembatan. Tetan Jesu Tumbi, Conju Chabasola Shai, Tedadam Tumbis, Napanla Subas on the Pramungos Mene, and the Pramuta Jeda, Chulujenda Katazudumudua.
Less so.
Hindu don't change.
Less so.
Conju Sola Imachine, Hindu Chuche, what the Jena Digmares, and the Hindu Chutan, and the Jenda Kandabu. Pela Subas on the Pramungos Mene, and the Hindu Dan, Kaja the Kangati Lady.
So here, whatever activity you engage in and whatever your purpose, make offerings and supplications to the 3 jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods. So it says, whatever activity you engage in and whatever your purpose, rely on and do that which accords with the 3 jewels, such as making offerings to them, but never do that which does not accord with the 3 jewels. So it is not okay to rely, if one has faith in the three jewels, on such as relying on Bon. So this such as part, Bon is an example here given, but it also infers the Hindu religion and any other non-Buddhist traditions. So, and we explained that before, what that means, of not relying on the Bon tradition, but also such as is inferring others as well that are the not Buddhist truths. So that's the point here.
What is the matter? That is Saji Ngaba Derindo, Saji Ngaba. Pension in Yelas, Chenrezig on the Johnson Roll and Knees, the Sagittaire Momodua. Pension, Conjus on the Johnson Rue, Pension, Yelas on Chenrezig. Yelas on John Road, Chenrezig on John Jewels, Johnson Roll and Knee. Doan Jun Pen, the Mangan Penny Udua. Doan Jun Mangan. Doan and Joy Pen, Mangale, Joy Pen, Mangale was. Dan Tom Doal and Joy Pen to la Giseni do, Giseni. Giseni Tombi, that Gisent Doal ship Pen to la, Conjus on the Johnson Drew Pen to la, Nielas, Senlas, Johnson Drew, Doan ship Pen to la Giseni do, Gisent Tombo, Giseni ba. That Gisent Tombi. J'essaie d'embu, j'ai de choses, non? Sonant Chenmo, sonant Chenmo Subas, Tobas, what j'essaie d'embu, take a tombo de Marbe. J'essaie d'embu de la Giro. J'ai non tombo de choses, non? J'essaie d'embu, sonant Chenmo Toba Nessa. Quand je suis la Johnson Drogina, sonant Chenmo Togre, Gawala Chebo Togre, and Dendry Land, Tabi Land. Tibetan Champion Lama Suba, the Mummy Young Song the Zero. So no judgment to ne. Chimengadi is oneless, Chimengadi is on some of the Hag, which I change some of Chimengadi is oneless. Sanji and then some much, Chuji and then some much, Pabigan is some much about Teshibi, Napa Mebo, some much house. Napa Mebo, some much as what they get. Chuban doing their Juro, then the Rendua. Chimengadi is on the Rendua. Sanji and then Sanji much about a queen and then smoking and then Tuji and then Sanji much about it. Then I think and then Sanji much about it. And then Chuji and then Sanji much about in Sonza. Sanji and then some much, Chuji and then some much, Pabigan in some much, some Mashibala. Sanji Majaba de la Conjunction de la, and then Shatsaya down, Chebambu, Tenjigina, and then Gawala Chebungre, Sanji Majaba Yungres. Casa, some maja, Tambi Chujan, some maja, Pabigan, some Majabala, some Chala, Teji, Nabamiba, some majas. Conjunction de Sanji Majaba in Sonda. Tella Chebobi was a Debashaba Suba to Zukolo, Nami Sanji Majabares, Debuchabu Yungure, Dedu Yungure, Taba Yungure, Sanji Kumu to the engine of Maribel.
So the next section, after you have understood the benefits, go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. So this is a larger section. It says the benefits of going for refuge are explained first according to the compendium of determinations, and then according to the personal instructions. So it'll begin with the explanation according to a Sangha's compendium of determinations. So we begin with the first set of 4. So there will be 2 sets of 4. So the first set begins with you will obtain vast merit. These are the benefits of going after you have understood the benefits, go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. So the benefits of going for refuge. So it says you will obtain a vast merit. So this is the first of the 4, and then there's a quote from a tantric text, the immortal drumbeat Dharani. And it says, the Bhagavan Buddha is inconceivable. The sublime teaching is also inconceivable. The noble community is inconceivable. For those having faith in the inconceivable, the fruition is also inconceivable. So here, when we're speaking of these different Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, in this case, so the Bhagavan Buddha, we previously went over the excellent qualities of body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. And then the sublime teaching, the excellent qualities that are inconceivable. And then the noble community here, this is referring to the Sangha, or the community of Aryas, or community of superiors. And for those having faith in the inconceivable, so those who have faith in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the fruition is inconceivable. So if one is to, for instance, pay homage to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha, because they are inconceivable, the fruition of that homage is inconceivable. If one makes offerings in the same way, the fruition is inconceivable. And here we're speaking of virtuous activities, so the fruition is the higher realms, liberation, complete Buddhahood. So one is able to engage in those pathways which lead to the higher realms, those pathways which lead to liberation, those pathways which lead to complete Buddhahood, and achieve their goals of higher realm rebirth, liberation, and Buddhahood. So the fruition is inconceivable because the basis is inconceivable. So this is showing the excellent qualities and the benefit of using these objects of observation for our virtuous accumulation. Dixon.
This one. What the young passing Duba passing Duba le Jans, Chelsea Sona Zuyana, Tonson de Jasu Champuchu, the Pidgey of Galan, Chelsea Sona Zuyana, Conjus on the Chelsea Sona de. And then to meet Tonga Yubi, Eden Kadu, Zuzu Truyabaina, and then Sau Sati, Salage, Tonson de, and then Conjus on the Jason, Sona de Losage, Jena, Tanda Chunga, Shongumaris, Jason Sona Zoyana, Tonson de and Hot Jones, Tons of Dea, and then Tons of de Nalula, Jason Sona de Lubaina, Kozuina. Shungumaris, Jason Sona Zoyana, Tonson de and Herd Chung. Jatu Chimbi Chu, the Pidgey of Galadus, Ocean Marble, Ocean Maso, Lavandus and the Chu, Genius on the Tetua Marwa. Then I attend Rabbits, Jatu Chimbi Chu, the Pidgey of Galadus, or Yakazam Marbe.
Then the Lama, the zoo, the Longa.
Jason Sona Zoyana Sarvata. Conjus on a Jason to Sona de. So now the Gawaro, Zoom Marwa.
Shunju.
Johnson did Duba and the Pashin Duba. Duba said the Euro.
Lesser. Oh, lesser.
Pashin Duba, Johnson, the Pashin Mobile, the Pashin Duba. Johnson got to injure.
Lesser.
Johnson Sona Zoyana, Tonson de Herdchun, Jatu Champichu, the Pidgey of Galanus. Johnson Sona, the Zoomaris,
lesser.
Get the Zoo in Bayina, Eden had to radio Bayina. The Losa can hear the Tonson de Sau Sati, Salason de Tenalul Janduge, Sona the Loba in a Shungumaris. Jasu Chimpichu, the example, Pidgey of Galan, Jatu Ocean to the Chinese from Zetuayama, Tendabres.
So if the merit of going for, so then we have a quote from Arya Shura's Compendium of the Perfections. And if the merit of going for refuge took form, even these three realms would be too small to contain it. A cupped hand cannot measure the great ocean, the storehouse of water. So merit itself is not form. So we begin there. It is not form. But if it were to take on a form, if merit were to have a shape and color to it, a form to it, then the three realms of the under, on the earth, and above the earth wouldn't be enough to fill, to hold that form. So the three realms would not be big enough to hold the form if merit were able to take on a form, which it's not. But if it were, it's showing the greatness of it. And it's saying a cupped hand cannot measure the great ocean, the storehouse of water. So if one takes one's hands and then puts in the water, and one is not able to measure all of the water by just taking out a little bit of water with one's cupped hand. So it's showing that you couldn't measure it, the great ocean, the storehouse of water. And it says if the merit took a form, it would be too much to fill all the three realms.
Lamrim goes over the Shanju Senji, so not the Zuzuyabayina, and then Naka can't then the day Labanus. Tell us get the Zujina, Naki can't then the day Labanus. Shanju Senju, so not the parent the Zuzuyabayina, Naki can't was gone there, the real Lagers. Naki can't then the day Labanus. What does the double water?
Then Lungabane.
Lampat. Tell a get the Zuchina, Naki, Shanju Sanji, so not the parent de Zuimbayina, and then Naki can use gone there, then it do have juice.
So then this is very similar to in Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, where it speaks of bodhicitta, and it speaks of the greatness of the mind that aspires to enlightenment. And it says that it would fill, if it took on a form, it would fill all of space. So I'm going to find the quote. If it possessed physical form, the merit of the altruistic attention would completely fill the whole space and even exceed that. So here, this is a very similar idea to that mentioned in the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment about bodhicitta. Here it's the merit of going for refuge. In that case, it's the altruistic intention, the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. To look anything up. Oh well. Decent.
Yeah.
Good so.
Pension in Yelazon, Senazon, Josun Dora, Doanship Penton, Mengalami Penny, Doanship Pen de Giseni, Gisen Tambo Niba, Gisen Tabi Tambute, Tuja, Sona Chembuzubas Marva, Sona Chembuzugres, Conjusula, Josun Rubaina, Sona Jachemutugres, Sona Jachuyungres, Carson Chemengadi Zonle. Tsong-kha-pa the Samaja, Chujin the Samaja, Genu the Samaja, Pabigan the Samaja, the Samaja Petition, Napa Meba Samajas. Conjunction Sanji Machava in Luzon, Tel Chubabuadan, what the Casagori Johnson Rolla Sobatolo, and then Bumis Chevion Wodes, and the Pashi Duvale, Johnson Sonazo and Tuson de Anno, Jatu Chemichu, the Pugio Colonus, what the Nidamarva. And the Johnson de Zoo Market, Zoo Rebaina, and the Donson de Losa contain Tuners, Ocean and Genie from the two Martin Dollars, or the Redua. That near but then Geshe Lharampa Chin Sabache, Geshe Lharampa Chin, that near but the Redua. Near but the Ne.
The Tama, the Jatso. The Dutsu Yuna, the
Jatso Chembichu, the Pujiogal and Genie from the two Maruta.
Dutsu Yuna?
Kazutu.
Okay. Less so. So when we look at the benefits, it says after you have understood the benefits, go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. So the benefits are explained first according to the compendium of determinations, then according to the oral tradition or the personal instructions. So we begin with the benefits as they appear in the compendium of determinations, and there are explained in 2 sets of 4. So the first set of 4 begins with, you will obtain a vast amount of merit. And then there are 2 quotes to support that vast amount of merit statement. First from the immortal drumbeat Dharani, which is a tantric text. It says, the Bhagavan Buddha is inconceivable, the sublime teaching is also inconceivable, the noble community is inconceivable, and those having faith in the inconceivable, the fruition is also inconceivable. So the amount of merit is inconceivable for those who have faith, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, because their excellent qualities are inconceivable. So having faith in that object of observation, which is inconceivable, related to the excellent qualities, causes one to have inconceivable results. So this is the first point that's made. And then second, Aryashura's Compendium of the Perfections states, and there is a little bit of a different flavor to the meaning on this. So it says, if the merit of going for refuge took form, even though these three realms would be too small to contain it, a cupped hand cannot measure the great ocean of the storehouse of water. So one can't take one's cupped hands and start 1, 2, 3, and be able to measure all of the contents of the water. So what I was asking Rinpoche is, well, if you had enough time, and so he said, no, the point here is that you can't just take your cupped hand and measure an entire ocean. So that is the point of that quote. So this is showing the inconceivable nature, the immeasurable nature of the merit that one achieves through having faith in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the benefits of going for refuge.
Nibade gawa to chudu gawa tuba nesa gawa dan chudu gawa tugres jaunri abijigi na gawa chibu yungore chudu gawa tugres gawa nan ya shwe de jiro gawa dan chudu gawa tuba ne jambi chungles chungs da saji ndo yire jambi chungle gaji ni da chen na so saji jesu janshi jin Kanda Sanji Chao Sungwa, Tada Mei Nyeba Yin, She Yen Yi Lang, Jane, Sungba Taran Dadayi, Chao Sung La Ten Tu Yoba Ne, Dani Ki, Ten Nyeba Leba Nye Tu Chane, Gayu, Gawa Jepe Tu Juwa Wusa. What that what the Gawa to Chud Gawa Tu Zat, what this is Gawa to Chud Gawa, Kanda Tungorisana. Tembi Chungles, Ganji, Nidan Centatus, Tachu Ganji, Ganza Ganji, and then Ganza Jiki, and then Nidan Cento, and Josun Drobaina, Nidan Cenan so. And the Sanji Jesu Tenjins, Sanji Majibaji, Sanji Jesu Tenjin, Ganda Sanji Josun Asa. Ne Sanji Jesu Ten, Sanji Majibaji, Sanji Lechao Sungwa Yina, Tada Mei Nyeba Yins, Tada Mei Nyeba Yins, Tada Mei Nyeba Yin, Gandhi Chula Chao Sungwa, Tada Mei Nyeba Yin, Ganda Gani Chao Sungwa, Tada Mei Nyeba Yins, Chao Sungwa Le Jagures. Chabi Chungle Ganji, Niedan Cenan so, Sanji Jesu Ten She Jins, and then Nimi got sent Samale, Sanji Jesu Ten, Ganda Sanji Chao Sungwa, Sanji Chao Sungwa Yina, Chao Sungan Ganza Tada, Mei Nyeba Res, Mei Nyeba Leba Nyeba, Mei Nyeba Yin, Ganda Ganin Chao Sungwa, Tada Mei Nyeba Yin, Ganda Chu Chao Sungwa, Chu Chao Sungwa, Tada Mei Nyeba Yin. Conju Jenda ni la Jaugures, She Jenny Lang, Jane, Sombatar, Tendai, Josun la Ten to Yobanesa. Tendai Josun la Ten to Yobane, Dagi Neba Lebanientos, Josun la Ten to Yobat, Dagi, Neba Yab Neber, Goyabo, and then as Tobaris. Near to Yane, God Jefit and Jewels, God pay this. That's a God and shoot God to us.
Gawa, Chutagawa, the Chapagari.
God, Cheba the Chimomobile, Gazana, Chunjon is the window. Shoot the Gaz, God Chivarota.
Then Chutagawa, Sena. Got it.
Shoot the God, Tula Gawa, Raja Gawa, Teba Chembal Gawa Yorota, what does Chetmo is Rota, what does it
So there are, so it says you will, so the next section, you will obtain both joy and supreme joy. And it says the collection of indicative verses states, those who, recalling the Buddha during the day and night, go for refuge to him, gain the advantage of being human. You should apply this to the other two jewels as well. Thus, the one who relies on these three refuges grows more joyful with the thought, I have really gotten something worth getting. So I asked Rinpoche, it says joy and supreme joy, and it just means ever increasing, starting with joy and then increasing to supreme joy. And it says, grows more joyful with the thought, I have really gotten something worth getting. So that was the question that I asked, the difference between those two words. And so here, those who, so a person who, recalling the Buddha, so a person who thinks of the Buddha, doesn't forget the Buddha during the day and night, so at all times, goes for refuge to him, gain the advantage of being human. This is the quote. I think that's all of the commentary. The Rinpoche, the Shiloka, that's gone.
Nyeba leba nyeba se go zero da gani jiao song nyeba leba nyeba re chu su jiao song nyeba leba jeni la jars she jeni la jane son batar tenda yi jiao song la ten de yoba nes kon su song la ten de yoba ne da ge nyeba leba ne kon su song la ten de yoba ne ana nga su nyeba leba nyeba res kon su song la jiao song do ge na da cheba be ge na da en phen che bro da Never never near to Yana, and the Gawadi appears, Susu Gawadi. Gawad Jepito. Gawad not true the Gawas and Gawaji, Jepito was true in some way. Gawad, Jepito and true.
Then the Ganda Sanjay Jasua Sonwa, the Deda me, Nepa yin. The Jasudrona. The Jepo Gariana may the NGK there.
Johnson to get the middle of me. Okay. Close Angel Johnson Roba is go Chibutobro. Never Chibutobro. Me never da. Sai never maro. Me never. Johnson to get married. Me never is. Then I Ganilla Johnson Roba in there, so not Chibutoro. The me never. Okay,
less so. So I'm just trying to get clarity around this gain the advantage of being human, because it can sound like you become a human by going for refuge. You gain this advantage. So here this is speaking of the advantages of being human. By doing this, you have these advantages of being human. You're making use of the advantages you have of being human. So gain the advantages of being human sounds like almost a result, but here it's saying you're taking advantage of the advantages of being human. So that's the clarification on that. And then the Rinpoche again stated that both joy and supreme joy, you should apply this to the other two jewels as well. So those who are recalling the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Thus, the one who relies on these three refuges of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha grows more joyful with the thought, I have really gotten something worth getting. So here, this is the more joyful is referring to the different states of joy that one has related to this idea that one can take. Is taking advantage of this basis. So one becomes joyful because one can accumulate a great store of merit by recalling the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha day and night and going for refuge to them. So one gets a large store of merit, so by doing so, one is gaining the advantage of being human. So that's the...
Gawa to truth Gawa to was that Josula and to you about Josula Chubambuya Johnson Roala Suba and the Yoba Yisona 아니 시다야 브레냐네 생 가부 용거레스 가부 용거레 가와디 앞에는 그래서 가와도 초도 가와스나 담을지 초도 가와서 앞에 펜해야 돼 이제.
So as one relies upon the three jewels and one makes offerings to the three jewels and establishes the three jewels, one's joy related to them will grow more and more and more, and then you will say, I have really gotten something worth getting. So you'll really establish it as something worthwhile.
다 듣는마 다 듣니발 찾아라와
Tenzin.
소노 자체부 투바 가와도 초도 가와 투바 니발자 다 송바도 제바니 된데 니서 말봐 송바도 제바니데 띵엔진당 나버다바 투바네 띵엔진당 나버다바 투바네 나버다바 투바네 띵엔진당 싫어질 합이 좋아 오사 안는 띵엔진 합아 되게 다 가르쳐 그래 안 가서 타바토발라 네 하바송 그거레스 네 주진지 르템바 땡간지 뽕바템바 안네 셰로 춘자템바 송 창송나 안네 타바토도 그러냐 뭐가 또 그레스 시대 같은 라반라분도 땡간지 타 나버타바 토바네스 땡간지도 나버타바 토바네 땡간지 다 땡간지 돈이라면 비 땡간지 돈이라면 비 땡간지 매나 돈이라면 비 라동용 말어 돈이라면 비 라동면나 돈 아니 녀모다 그자와다 녀모다 시리 본토 말어 돈이라면 비 땡간지 야바야바 이나 잘라면 라도 도서다 니디 뭐야 시디 뭐야 어떤 거 말어 띵게제 다 싫어질 하바니데 니도나 제인사 말봐
네, 라바솜 이간주데 가이라솜 데 라바솜 데 팅지
라바솜 가서 때빠자도 말봐 띵 라바솜데 주디 르템바 띵게제 봄바템바 셰로기 천자템바 중로나 녀모쥐도 그레스 먼저 담지 봄바 담지 천자 아버여바이나 신주도로
맞아요.
더 나지 띵게제 봄바템바 셰로기 천자템바 여바이나 아니 녀모도 시리 봄비 타바도야 사지야 어떤 이서 말봐
So the next, you will obtain concentration and you will attain purity. So here there's a relationship between the concentration and purity. So through training in concentration and wisdom, one will achieve purity. So here, purity referring to the removal of the obstructions, the afflictive obstructions, and the obstructions to omniscience. So when we look at the concentration and wisdom, if we look at the three higher training which are necessary to achieve the state of liberation, we see that they are ethics, concentration, and wisdom. And we find the example, if one needs to cut down a tree, one needs to have first a stable basis or a body in order to do so, but that's not enough. So then one also needs an arm that can do the cutting to cut down a tree, and then that won't be enough. One will also need some sort of saw to cut down the tree. Likewise, these three examples are compared to the necessity of having the three higher trainings in order to do this. So ethics, concentration, and wisdom in the order of the example. In that order, in the way the example is told. So if one can cut down a tree, if one has all of those factors, and likewise one can achieve the state which is a freedom from the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience or enlightenment by relying on training. So here, if one wishes to remove the obstructions to omniscience and afflictive obstructions, it's necessary to engage in concentration. And that concentration has to be specifically have as its object of observation emptiness. And then one has this single-pointed concentration using emptiness as its object of observation that then unites with a special, so one achieves a single-pointed concentration with its object of observation, emptiness, achieves a state of calm abiding, and then has a union of that with special insight or wisdom. And then through this process, one is able to eventually eradicate the negativities. One cannot eradicate those negative afflictions without this concentration. So one is liberated through this concentration. So this is the point. You will obtain concentration and you will obtain purity. You will be liberated through training and concentration and liberation. So through, if you look at it in the order 3-4, through training and concentration and wisdom, you will attain liberation. You will be liberated.
What the Johnson pension in Nilas Chenmo Johnson, Duanji Pen, Maran Pen, Nije, Duanji Pen, Giseni, Giseni Tambi, Tambu Shosana, so not Jachu to what Marbe, Sonji and the Summer, Chujin and the Summer, Genu and the Summer said, Pashin Dubale, Johnson Sonon Zuna, Donson de Anadujun, Jatu Chimichu, the Fugitive colonists, the two Jachu to what here. 다 가와다 추도 가와 투바 때마르 가와다 추도 가와 투바데 안에 건축송라 저 된도여바네 안에 다그 녀발레바 녀도 지금 가와다 안에 라페는 그랬어 가와다 추도 가와 드니바제 다 띵엔지다 나버다바 투바서데 띵엔지다 나 띵엔지 투바다 나버다바 투바 니다나 이제레서다 Tamadale Gawad, Chut Gawasana, Ni Yumba Rabdua. Omadal Tinganzina, Nabataba Tuba, Ni Jana, and the Tamani Jeredu. God, Chut Gawas, Ni Damaina, Tinganzina, Nabataba Tuba, Ni Damaina, Takade, Ni Dona Turu, Chima the Judgment. God, Chut God, Jira, Nibaje. Tingenzi tuba sombaje nabataba tuba jiva. Jiva jana jisen tambu tuba tinsamana.
If we look at how this is explained, it says the benefits are explained according to the Compendium of Determinations and according to the personal instructions. And they appear in the Compendium of Determinations in 2 sets of 4. So we went over the first set of 4. First, you will obtain vast merit. So here, the excellent qualities of the Buddha are inconceivable, the excellent qualities of the Dharma are inconceivable, and the excellent qualities of the Sangha or community are inconceivable. And then it goes on to say, if the merit of going for refuge took a form, even these 3 realms would be too small to contain it. A cupped hand cannot measure the great ocean, the storehouse of water. So these are the 2 points that are made related to the vast amount of merit one will achieve. And then you will obtain both joy and supreme joy. So here, by relying on the 3 jewels, one's joy will ever increase more and more. And then it says you will obtain concentration, you will obtain purity. And then Rinpoche said, what if we related the joy from concentration and then supreme joy to the purity? But then he said that we could get into the area where then we have 6 and there's only 4, so we won't do that. But we find that there are certainly 4 presented here. If we were to add an addition in, you would have to add them into the concentration and the purity, and then you'd have another section that was already the 2 to obtain both joy and supreme joy as its own section.
Now we
get into the second set of 4.
Jisenyi Domitele, Swan Chibata Dembas, John Jagina, and the Swan Chibaris, potato Dama potato Marba, John Jagina, and then also the Ludanga Hituzula, Noba go to res, Songa Chambers, Songa Chimota Dembane, John Jigina, Songa Chimota Dembare, Potato Chimu res, Riba. Songa Chimota Dembane, Chibanjur, Ulma Jigins, Ulma Chigres, Chibanjurosa. Tani Niba the or the Chidon.
Soma Kona, the Natsu, the Longa Yisun, the Gewa Gare.
Potatoes and Nazu Somasina, and the Gumba del G, Robuji and Somala. Okay. John Jagina, and then Songa Chambata Dembers, Songa, and then Carson tourists, Susongres, and then Naruto, John Jagan Songres.
Lesso.
What the song between the wool matching is?
Touche. So the first is you will have great protection. Now we get into the second set of four, and it says you will have great protection, and this will be explained later. So Rinpoche said great protection referring to protectors. Those who go for refuge are taken care of by former protectors. So one will be protected, one's body, speech, and mind will be protected by the Dharma protectors. One will be protected by the Dharma protectors because they have vowed that those who go for refuge they will protect.
So Demba Chibanjuros, Taniba Denderis, Niba Lobara maybe Jibatanji Sabatan, Yonsu Sebatan, Yonsu Tuba ne, Tumbadan Chudan. Bala Mene, Josu, Zonyu, Wangi, Legaba Sabana, Chuatan, Dabanjua Usa, and Ruba maybe Jibatanji, Sabatan, Yonsu Sebatan, Tuba Zad Karisina, and then also Conjusula Josumandubaji, and then Jendal Josun to them, Jendal Josun Tiwangi. Diba Mosaja Yoro. Loba may be Diba, Ane Casagure, Dunam, then Ichine, Johnson Rubaina, Diba Mosaja. Loba may be Diba Tanje, and John Jagina, Sabas, Chuchan, Sabatan, Yonsu Seba, Tawani in the Tanus, Angulumala Debanajin. Sebatan, and then Yonsu Toba Zon de Yonsu Toba Pichi Bashan de Jaguna, Yonsu Toba ne, Divi Basha to Saint Gosuna. Tumbadan, Chudan, Trungaba Sola Josu, Tumba Luba Yoro, Tumba Luba, Chu Luba, True Luba, what and Rongi Tumba, Rongi Chu, Rongi Plant Marva.
Lesser.
The little man, Josu Zon Wangi, and then laying about Sabana, laying about Sagres, Sabana, John de Chigina, Chundures, Chuatan, Dabar Jua Usa, and then Tulu Chuban and Dan Jua was what things on Marva. Yeah.
You will reduce, extinguish, and totally annihilate all obscurations derived from incorrect belief. So here, you will reduce and clear away bad karma accumulated on account of your believing in bad teachers, teachings, and friends, and upholding them as refuges. So previously we went for refuge to bad teachers, teachings, friends, etc., and accumulated large misdeeds or bad karma as a result of it. So we begin with the word reduce. So this is making it less. So we will lessen by going for refuge. We will lessen the previously accumulated karma related to relying on bad or wrong teachers, wrong teachings, wrong friends. So first we will reduce it. So it's like Rinpoche said, where you start to wash a cloth and wash the stain out of a cloth. We begin to reduce the stain. We begin to reduce our bad accumulation. So here, these are the imprints of our previous misdeeds. So we begin to purify them and reduce them. And then it says, and clear away. So eradicate them completely. And we find in the story of Angumala, the being who was able to clear away all of the non-virtue that he had accumulated altogether from relying on a bad teacher, teaching, and friends. So we find this story where there is the example of a complete purification. And this word clear away means getting rid of completely. So we initially, again, reduce it, make it less, and then eventually it becomes cleared away. And in the case of Angumala, that's a cleared away negative karma that he didn't have to experience. Diksun.
This way. Oh, this Kasa Nibati, Tasumati in Bare. Tambayan Tabara Sua, Chibutamba Naji, Nando Don Joatas, when you saw the Church of Dogina, and Chibutamba renders, Chibutambi, Tankal Tundagres, Don and Joa dance, or the Nibaje, that Tumba down, Samba Tomba Sheba, Temba and Samba Tomba Sheba, Tembala, Gayu, Hanaji, Ito, Monshis, Jandu Abijagina, Temba Gabiyungure, and then Drew Tomba Sheba to Gabiyungure, Tembala Gayu, Hatu to Gabiyungures, Ito Monshin, Gawan Joa Nesa. Conjunction of children to what there, Temba down, True Samba Sheba down, Tembala Gayi, Hatu to Gabi woman. God and Joa Nesa. Chibutamba Twiji, Tembala Suba, Jeba Wosa, Chibutamba Twiji, Tembala Suba, Jeba Wosa, Temba Gabi Yungus, two Jeba Yungus.
So then, number 3, you are counted among excellent persons, the most excellent person who genuinely accomplished the sublime. You are included. So then it says you are included among excellent persons who accomplished their goal, the sublime. You delight and receive the approval of your teachers and religious companions of the deities who take joy in the teaching. You are liked by those. So you are liked or you are approved of by your teachers and by your spiritual companions, and it says by the deities, and it says the deities who take joy in the teaching. So they approve of this, or they like that you're doing this. So the word like, gawa, that they like the fact that you're so they like the fact that you're taking refuge. If you go for refuge, your teachers like it, your spiritual companions and deities like it.
Hatu Gabaji was Chicamashi, Daja Josu Droa, Kantan Dembe, Kujandu and Deva in Susan, Kushipine, Shipine, Dirjibi Halchigres, Dirjibi, Josu Droa dancing, Lam Matu Nebina, then the Dajaki Druso, Joa Wongo Nyane. And then Hatu Hazuru Mamu was the Hatu Gabi was. He gashi Cheto Joba was what the Nibati in Serba.
So the teachers, religious companion Jipa. The teachers and religious companions and deities will take joy and then arrive or come or be attracted. If it maybe is a better way to explain it, be attracted to us. I think you understand how I mean that word, because of the taking joy in what we're doing. And it says, you please your teachers, by going for refuge, you please your teachers and religious companions, or your spiritual friends. How are the deities delighted? They sing praises of such people, joyfully thinking, the person named such and such who, like us, has gone for refuge, will die and be reborn here. Because he or she has gone for refuge, has become stable in it, he or she will be our companion. So the deities sing these praises because they're overjoyed by the fact that we are going for refuge, and they come to us. So there's this, and within this, this approval is this, they not only approving but surrounding us. Almost, Rinpoche is using the word yong, which is to come happy, come to us with joy. So the deities come to us with joy, our spiritual teachers come to us with joy, and our spiritual companions come to us with joy. So it might be a looser way to translate, come to us with joy.
사질 되듯이 지생이 사질 나로 쓰면 되거든. 나ring 사질 요로. 나ring 사질 도안 중에 배다 명안 중에 배우스 사진이지. 담불라 지생이 레스 지생 담불라 소나 자체부터 담불에도와 가와도 추도 가와도 니바지 띵엔진 토바 송바지 나버다바 토바 제바렌도와 다 지생이 발라 송아 전부터 된바스 담부지 로바 멤비 데바타지 사바다 용수 세바다 용수 토바오스 니바지르바 야 다바 송유 야 다바 송아 제부터 담바나지 다도 당원조와스 송제 담바다 삼바 통바셔바 담바다 삼바 통바셔바 가일 하나지 이동오신 가안조와오스 what 사진 되다 세부도와 고슬라네 사진도스.
So it's important that we look at the outline of the great treatise, of the stages of the path teachings. And we look at how it appears in the compendium of determination. There's two sets of four. So the first set of four begins with the vast store of merit. Then the second, you will obtain both joy and supreme joy. Then third, you will obtain concentration. And then fourth, you will obtain purity. So this is the first set of four. The second set of four begins with having a protector, or you will have protection. Second, you will reduce, extinguish, and totally annihilate all obscurations derived from incorrect belief or from wrong view. You are counted among excellent persons who genuinely accomplish the sublime. You become the most excellent type of person, and then you delight and receive the approval of your teachers and religious companions and of the deities who take joy in the teaching. So these are the two sets of four, and it's important for us to know the outline, and then we can come to learn what the outline means. So the Lamrim Chenmo's outline is very, very clear. So if we follow that, then we're following clear. We're following it straight in a clear way. Because the outline is very clear. Okay, so today, now that we're going to look at the next outline as well. The benefits as they appear in the personal instructions or the oral tradition, and then there are 8 in total there. Less so. Yeah, we'll do. Less so.
Domba tanji ten chubas chawndo de ba ina dene soso tabi domba sama jegres shanju sembe domba tan ane hadon sama jegwe jero chawndo mena domba jege menjere domba tanji ten chubas dene hon sabi dibana seji saji seber chubas odo sombare ba ane sono jachebu subas jibaje Nandu Mutungwa Nabariba Madam Mama Inji Pachi Mutubas Sua Chenmo to Deba Chebanju Pajin to Menua Madam Mama Pachi Musubas Chesamba Tanji Drubas Susul Sanlu Kario and Dendru Wodes Nyon to Tanjawa was Jet with the Mengan Penjit Terendua the Lari Taman 7 water Jeremy Lari Chone 7 do and Pechen Shiriba, what the Larinola Martinez Sebudu, Nandu Lajan Yuata, what the Saman Sebu, the Sajil Sebu Dua, and the God Jambe Shilon, the Saman Yajit, Pen, Mengal, Pen Jit, Lari Saman Sivin.
So then these, I'll say first, so these 8 points that are about to be made, we find throughout all of the Lamrim texts. We find it very clearly presented in the Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand by Pabunka Rinpoche. We find it presented by the 5th Dalai Lama, Ngawang Drapa, the great Ngawang Drapa's spoken words of Manjushri. We find in Panchen Lama's path, great path, or path to, it's not the path to bliss, it's the other one, the path text, which is a Lamrim commentary. We find this section explained. So in the smaller Lamrims by Lama Tsong-kha-pa, we find this section explained. So it's very clear what these words mean according to other commentaries that we'll be able to look at. But right now we'll just go through the order and the outline. So according to the oral tradition, the first benefit is that you become a Buddhist. You are included among Buddhists. It's when you go for refuge to the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, you become a Buddhist. So this is the first quality. The second is you become worthy to uphold all vows. So once you go for refuge to the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, you are worthy of holding the individual liberation vows, or the bodhisattva vows, or the tantric vows. So this becomes a basis for the other types of vows. The third is you reduce and eliminate previously accumulated karmic obstructions. Next, you will accumulate vast amount of merit. Next, you will not fall into the miserable realms. Then you will not be thwarted by human or non-human hindrances. So this can relate to the protection previously mentioned in the according to the Compendium of Determinations, and among the second set of 4. Where it speaks of protection, we can see that it relates here to that. And then you will accomplish everything you wish, and then lastly you will quickly attain Buddhahood. So these are the 8 divisions here, and we can find those 8 in many of the other Lamrim commentaries. Pension the Becha the Tsengari.
Dalai the Beijing,
Swift Path by Panchen Lama.
Nilamati the Beijing, Luzon Chuji Yanse, Beijing, Bedin.
So Panchen Palden Yeshe, who is the second Panchen Lama, wrote the Swift Path. The Path to Bliss was written by the first Panchen Lama, Panchen Lozan Chuji Jedsen. Tambo. Pension
What's
Lozan
the Lari
Chuji
Sama Lord, the Lari Sajil Sebi, Sajin Sebi, Lari Sama, what the 7
So because the outline is so clear in this text, all the commentaries are very clear in their presentation of this section, because the outline is so clear to understand. The commentaries, in every commentary it's written in, it's very clear.
That Jemanga to the
So in the future, we'll go over this according to the Lamrim Chenmo, the personal instruction. So we only have 5 minutes or so left. So if anybody has any questions, we can do that. I apologize for any of the choppy translation. We got into concentration and
Rinpoche, I wonder, this is kind of a general question, just what's the relationship between merit and then just virtuous karma?
The sanam tangewa jawa gare gewa synonymous. Merit and virtue are synonymous.
Yeah.
So accumulation of virtue, accumulation of merit, synonymous. Merit and virtue synonymous. Chua nipa yure. Yeah, sunamayimbi gewa sho me.
My memory is not really clear about this, but I recall vaguely Rinpoche talking about the classification of karma, whether it's form or mind.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and then he just said it's not form. So I'm just wondering where that stands.
Ngama the Chiran lay Geshe Sheson, Kong Tsampa the Tsansan lay Zu Tsansan lay Sem, then lay Gare.
네 다가 시다 마다 탄주원이 되게 뢰지래 나가래 두소이라는 거를 뭐 제면서도 탄주 찬스 탄주하게 소이라고 그랬어 너도 봐서 본 사람도 있어 너도 봐지 시다 마와지 산산 봐지 오마나 줘도 그래 본이 선배 산주이 산주
Then the Shiramao dan Tanger, the Lo Nga, the Leka, Zu.
뢰지래 나가래 조이 조
Then Yichile.
이질래도 쉐바로다
Shiva. Okay. So according to the Great Exposition School, the Vibhashika School, and the Madhyamika Prasangika School, the Middle Way Consequence School, actions of the body and the speech are form. So they fall categorically under form. Actions of the mind are consciousness. But actions according to the Sutra School, the Mind-Only School, and the Middle Way Autonomy School are mental factors, and specifically the mental factors of intention. So this is the difference among the tenet systems. The Prasangika, highest school, Prasangika, Middle Way Prasangika, Madhyamika Prasangika, Middle Way Consequence School, and the lowest school of the tenets, the Vibhashika School, which is the Great Exposition School, concur that actions of body, speech are form, mind are consciousness, and the other schools believe that they are mental factors or intention specifically. The Samsampa, the Lu Nga Yi Sung Le Kanga Senjongyen. Okay, so I asked if it was also if those other schools, the mind also was considered, mind action was also a mental factor, just for clarification, and yes, so they believe that it's all intention. So we will do the concluding prayers, and thank you everyone for your patience. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lobsang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts, exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche, Guti Shapi Deno, Lamrim Chenmo Koncho.